Let's switch over to the NFL. NFL playoffs starting tomorrow at the wild card. We do have the first game on the slate, which is a huge spread, 10.5. Panthers hosting the Rams, Rams laying it. Packers, Bears also tomorrow night, a closer game with a shorter spread. Any player props that stand out to you?
So tomorrow, the weather takes center stage. In Charlotte, we've got a chance for light rain, but massive wind gusts. I'm looking here at like 20 to 25 mile per hour wind gusts. And if you combine that with rain, I like my field goal props, but that's not good weather for either of them. Not to mention Carolina and the Rams don't allow a lot of made field goals. So that kind of plays into there. And then, of course, Chicago, like obviously with the weather in Chicago with snow and it's supposed to feel like 9 degrees and there's supposed to be wind there too. I would be very concerned about that stuff there. I'd be looking at rushing attempts for like Monangai and Swift and Jacobs. Jacobs says he has not felt fresher in a while in this season. And so I think the Packers are going to rely heavily on Jacobs, and I think the Bears are going to rely heavily on their ground game. I might look at the under on the longest reception for both Love and Williams. Both of them are guys that have either gone well over it or well under it.
You mean longest pass?
Yeah, longest completion. Yes, my apologies. I forget what I said, but I would almost look at the under there with the way the weather's going to be. And you know how it goes when it goes to snow. You either have these long receptions because the corner falls down or the wide receiver falls down. So I have a feeling if we get the weather we're projecting here, we're going to see a lot of running and we're going to see not as much passing with two quarterbacks that we know can be, problematic at times.
Sunday. Bills, Jags, Niners, Eagles, Chargers, Pats. It's your Eagles. Anything stand out to you there?
I've been taking the Eagles team total under all season. It feels like because their offense is just not explosive.
It's amazing how things have changed because team total overs in Philly for the last 2 years were great, especially 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, they had a good offensive coordinator. They had one last year, Kellen Moore, but that last year all they did was run the ball. I'm seeing now on DraftKings you can get 26.5 at minus 125 to the under until I see the Eagles consistently score points, even against bad defense. This is 49ers have a terrible defense. Until I see them consistently go over that sort of thing, I'm never going to take their over. The Eagles should destroy the Niners. They should, because the Eagles have the better defense. The Eagles have the better offense. I know that there's McCaffrey and I know that there's Kittle. But this is a game where Jennings and the other outside wide receivers shouldn't do very much. Cooper DeJean locks down the slot, and Quinyon Mitchell, unless Jennings lines up on the opposite side from Mitchell, because Mitchell's more of a boundary corner than a following corner. I don't know how the 49ers do a lot, which makes me think that Kittle could be involved. To me, this also feels like a Dallas Goedert game. Dallas Goedert, I think, should have some success across the middle against the Niners. The Niners are starting their 17th and 18th linebackers on their depth chart here. The problem is also the Eagles don't take advantage of these sort of things. The Eagles played the Bears when the Bears missed all their starting linebackers, and they just didn't do what they were supposed to. They didn't throw to Goedert in that game. And so, logically, it makes a lot of sense for Dallas Goedert to have a huge game here, but our OC's an idiot. So I can't, take that. Other than that, the other two games.
You haven't listed any kicker props.
Well, see, but the problem is we got a lot of weather situations. There's a lot of weather, especially tomorrow, that's going to complicate things. I mean, look, Houston, Pittsburgh, that game's going to be filled with field goals. Let's be completely honest there. I mean,
Boswell's going to need to redeem himself because he was literally inches away from being the most hated person in Pittsburgh.
Pretty much. Houston allows almost 2 field goals per game attempted on the road, and Pittsburgh allows over 2 field goals per game at home attempted. So, to me, that and we're getting Fairbairn and Boswell, 2 of the most reliable guys. Now, obviously, the weather will be a little bit of a problem. I mean, it's Pittsburgh at night. It's going to be a little cold. There might be a little bit of wind, but if you ask me 2 guys that I would want to play any sort of field goal props with, it would be those 2 guys. So yeah. I think most of my field goals are coming. I'll have to look at the numbers. Occasionally, sportsbooks offer an over-under on field goals made for the weekend. Might have to look at the under.
Not even the game, just the weekend.
Yeah, I might look at the under. It depends on how it breaks down. If there's one for tomorrow, I'll definitely look at the under for tomorrow with all the weather issues and stuff like that. But I might look at the weekend. DraftKings occasionally has something like that. I think the score occasionally has something like that. But I don't see a lot of field goals, especially tomorrow with the way the weather's going to play.
Yeah, weather a factor for sure. Is it so you said weather throughout the weekend? Are there games in particular you're waiting to bet because of weather, or you just are you waiting to bet everything?
Well, no, I mean, that's not, I'm really waiting. I mean, tomorrow, I think we're not going to see much of a difference. I mean, I think the weather forecast for tomorrow is the weather forecast. Foxborough has traditionally been an issue. There's a little bit of wind there, it looks like, a little bit of 10 to 15 mile per hour winds there. But and they have a young kicker, if I remember correctly, right? Doesn't New England? Oh, it's Borregales. I mean, So he's a guy that, are you going to ask him to make a lot of field goals as a rookie in the playoffs? I don't know. So will New England go for it more? This is what we have to kind of consider now because things get a little bit tighter. And Buffalo, Jacksonville, I'm not even going to try that game. I feel like I don't know enough about Jacksonville other than they're the number one rushing defense and the Bills are the number one rushing offense, and they're just going to go at it. And I mean, maybe the Bills settle for some field goals, but who knows? That's the toughest game for me to kind of figure out.
Well, Kelly and I filled both of our Splash Sports Survivor contests. I've been asking my guests this week for their Survivor pick of the week. So, Matt, who is your Survivor pick of the week?
So this is just, and I would not be able to use them for the rest of obviously it's one per week.
So you can't use them to win the Super Bowl.
Eagles.
Okay. Eagles win this week. I like them. I mean, the steam's on them. The number's gone. You can't bet them anymore. It was -3. You can't bet a 5.5 anymore.
By the way,
it's Survivor, so it's fine.
I think I'm rooting for the Bears this weekend.
Oh, no.
Well, for the Eagles. So let me ask you this. Would you rather go to Chicago if you're the Eagles with revenge because the Bears, beat them up in Philly, or would you rather host the Rams who scare me to death?
Well, obviously the Rams scare you. They always play the Eagles hard.
Yeah, exactly. And Sean McVay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think the Bears are going to lose this week because I don't think the Bears are good. So of course it's better for you to have to go face the Bears.
Right. And this is nothing. I know the Bears fans are going to get mad. I have mad respect for the Bears, but I have less respect for the Bears than I do the Rams. I'm scared to death of the Rams. I have a preseason Rams Super Bowl play that I made, but I just feel like for us, it would be a better matchup to play on the road in Chicago than it is against the Rams. Plus, I think the Rams have a better chance of beating Seattle, in which case we'd still see the Rams, but it would be at home in Philly for the NFC Championship game.
Joe 420 says he has the under 45 in Eagles Niners.
I mean, I don't hate that. I mean, I just gave out the Eagles team total under. The 49ers team total is 18.5. I would 20.5 is -155. That's pushing it a little bit, but I don't see how the Niners score a ton of points on us. Our defense is fresh and didn't play last week for the most part and is really good.
Mid-major, Matt, I appreciate you coming in between segments of your radio show. That is so nice of you. You gave us college football. You gave us NFL. You do it all, Matt. Thanks so much. As always, we'll see you next week.